Are your people working hard but not reaching their full potential? The problem is not effort, it is development. At the Modern Observer Group, we transform workforce development into real performance. Our human-centered achievement programs help your team think better, communicate stronger, and execute at a higher level. That means higher employee engagement, stronger leadership, and measurable results across your organization. If you want a workforce that performs, leads, and delivers, it is time to invest in your people. Visit modernobserver.com and discover how the Modern Observer Group helps you build a workforce that wins.
Trump to squeeze Iran's economy. The Senate funds the government through the midterms. The Whopper boosts Burger King, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. President Trump said Sunday that the United States is low-keying it with Iran, letting economic pressure build rather than ordering a new offensive. We are only semi-negotiating with them. We are just watching Iran with its huge inflation and the fact they have no money, he said Sunday. It will work out. It always works out. It's like a chess game. Iran's foreign minister said Sunday there are no direct talks with Washington, only messages passed through intermediaries. U.S. officials say there are growing disagreements inside the regime. Iran's president fears economic collapse and wants a deal with Washington, while the Revolutionary Guard's commander rejects any concessions. Israel is rejecting a 15-point Gaza proposal put forward by the Board of Peace, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Sunday, declaring that Israeli forces will not withdraw from the enclave until Hamas fully gives up its weapons. He stated, the IDF will not carry out any withdrawal until Hamas is genuinely disarmed. Israel remains in discussions with the United States over the disarmament of Hamas, but insisted any agreement would have to result in the terror group surrendering its entire arsenal, according to Netanyahu. It needs to be genuine disarmament, not fictitious disarmament, Netanyahu said. President Donald Trump on Thursday signed 2 executive orders targeting birthright citizenship and birth tourism, saying his administration is taking a new approach after what he called a very unfortunate Supreme Court ruling. We're making adjustments because it's very unfair, Trump said. They're building businesses around birthright citizenship. That's not the way it was supposed to work. It's a disgrace. They're buying their way in, and we're not going to let it happen. The moves come after the Supreme Court blocked Trump's earlier executive order seeking to limit automatic birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment. The Senate voted early on Saturday to fund the federal government until December 11th, averting another government shutdown before the midterm elections. Lawmakers headed to summer recess without taking up the Save America Act, President Trump's proof of citizenship voting bill. The Senate could try to approve parts of the bill as part of a GOP package to fund the Iran war in September. The Senate also confirmed Todd Blanche as U.S. Attorney General in a mostly party-line vote, with 2 Republican senators, Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, voting against him along with all Democrats. A Senate committee voted along party lines Thursday to hold Dr. Anthony Fauci in contempt of Congress after the former COVID-19 czar took the fifth 111 times rather than answer questions about lockdowns, pandemic origins, and gain-of-function research funding. Separately, 3 Republican attorneys general in Florida, West Virginia, and Louisiana are investigating whether Fauci personally profited from his own pandemic guidance and subpoenaed his records dating back to January 2020. Among their targets is the nearly $1 million Dan David Prize he collected in 2021. Emails show he solicited the nomination and supplied the materials for the prize himself. Congratulations, you're rich, his personal assistant wrote when the money came through. A preemptive pardon from former President Biden shields Fauci from federal charges through January 2025, but the state investigations fall outside its reach. Chairman Rand Paul is routing the referral straight to prosecutors through Vice President J.D. Vance, skipping a full Senate vote. Billionaire investor Bill Ackman warned that New York City's rent freeze, tax policies, and limits on development could worsen the city's affordability crisis by discouraging construction and investment. In a wide-ranging interview with Fortune, published Wednesday, the Pershing Square Capital Management founder argued that government policy is driving up housing and energy costs in New York. The answer isn't socialism. Socialism is a disaster, Ackman said. Watch what happens to New York City if Mayor Zohran Mamdani succeeds in implementing these plans. Ackman said New York's housing shortage stems in part from rules that make it difficult and costly for developers to build. It's so high because left-wing mayors have made it very difficult for developers to build here, and Mamdani, by freezing rent, is just going to make the problem worse, he said. New York City's Rent Guidelines Board voted in June to freeze rents on 1- and 2-year leases for rent-stabilized apartments. Former NBA center Enes Kanter Freedom, the number 3 overall pick in the 2011 NBA Draft, officially declared his eligibility for the 2027 WNBA Draft to play as a man in the Pro Women's League. Freedom says he and his team reviewed the league's eligibility criteria and claimed that he meets every legal requirement necessary to compete under the WNBA's inclusive transgender athlete policies, though WNBA officials dispute that. Those policies have been under a microscope since Indiana Fever guard Sophie Cunningham's public remarks that women's sports should remain female only. The FDA approves the first mRNA vaccine for the flu. The approval of the Moderna vaccine comes after the FDA initially declined to even review Moderna's application in a highly unusual move. But the agency changed course after widespread public backlash, the New York Times reported. The vaccine will use the same breakthrough technology as Moderna's COVID-19 shot to combat the flu, which kills 300,000 people per year, including 45,000 in the U.S. in 2025. The approval comes despite Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s skepticism of the technology. Last year, he canceled $500 million in mRNA development and has questioned its safety, despite doctors overwhelmingly agreeing that it's safe. The FCC lifts the cap on TV station ownership. The 3 commissioners of the Federal Communications Commission voted 2-1 Thursday to scrap the limit on the number of U.S. households one company can reach, likely paving the way for more media consolidation, NBC News reported. Previously, Congress limited companies to owning broadcast stations that combined to reach a maximum of 39% of the U.S. audience. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr called the rule outdated and has argued that the FCC has the authority to replace it, even though it was codified by Congress. Ana M. Gomez, the sole Democrat on the FCC panel, called the move unlawful. It is expected to be met with legal challenges. Ford announced the Fathom, a midsize electric pickup starting at $28,350, positioning it as one of the cheapest EVs in America and a direct answer to buyers priced out of the truck market. The Fathom rides on Ford's new Universal Electric Vehicle platform, built at its Louisville, Kentucky plant, and comes standard with Blue Cruise hands-free highway driving, bi-directional power capable of running a home, and Apple Maps built into the touchscreen. There's just one catch. Ford hasn't actually shown the truck yet and won't reveal what the Fathom looks like until pre-orders open in early 2027. The launch is the company's big bet after losing $19.5 billion on earlier EV programs. Burger King has taken back the crown from Wendy's for the #2 U.S. burger chain by system-wide sales after losing the position 6 years ago. This week, the Whopper maker reported an 8.5% spike in U.S. same-store sales last quarter, thanks in part to a revamp of its signature burger this year. It marks 5 quarters of same-store growth for BK, while Wendy's has seen its same-store sales shrink for the last 6 quarters, according to CNBC. McDonald's remains by far the top burger chain, commanding approximately 48% of the market. That's the Raw Naked Truth for August 10th, 2026. Remember to like and subscribe to the Raw Naked Truth wherever you listen to podcasts. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth Daily News Brief, as well as our sister podcast, Carnivore Radio, with news analysis and commentary, and the rest of the Xvadio Podcast Network at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.